Why do poor people make so many bad decisions? That question gets asked all the time, in classrooms, boardrooms, and especially in online comment sections. It's usually meant to sound curious, but let's be honest, it's a form of blame disguised as observation. But here's the better question. Why do we keep blaming the poor instead of the systems that trap them? Welcome to Filtered Society, where inequality meets social media. In this episode, we're unpacking why poverty isn't the result of laziness or lack of character, but of conditions designed to keep people stuck. The myth of moral failure is deeply ingrained. In the 1980s, Margaret Thatcher claimed poverty was a personality defect. That belief never left. Today, it's just been rebranded. Scroll through TikTok or Instagram and you'll hear it echoed in every hustle culture soundbite. If you're broke, it's your fault. Sleep is for the weak. Escape the matrix. But behind the motivational edits is a dangerous idea that success is always earned and failure is always deserved. What social science actually shows is far more complex and more honest. Poverty doesn't happen because people are irresponsible. Poverty creates conditions that lead to short-term decisions. A now famous study of Indian sugarcane farmers showed that when they were broke, their IQ dropped by 13 to 14 points. That's equivalent to being cognitively impaired by alcohol or sleep deprivation. But after harvest, when money came in, their scores returned to normal. What changed wasn't intelligence, it was stress. Poverty forces your brain into survival mode. How will I pay rent? What happens if my kid gets sick? Can I make it to Friday on this card balance? That mental load, that scarcity mindset, shrinks your ability to think ahead. It's like running 20 tabs on a computer with no memory left. You don't have the bandwidth to plan, save, or reflect. You're just trying to get through the day. Yet society continues to judge the poor as if they have the same mental capacity as someone with stability, savings, and options. And now, with social media, that judgment has gone viral. Videos that mock poor people get millions of views. Caught stealing, lazy and entitled, from broke to billionaire. Struggle becomes spectacle, suffering becomes content. And in a culture built on content, it's easier to go viral than to get help. We don't just misunderstand poverty, we misrepresent it. And that misunderstanding keeps inequality alive. If poverty reduces your ability to plan, think clearly, and make rational decisions, then shouldn't our solutions focus on reducing poverty itself? Instead, most programs aimed at poor communities assume that the problem lies within the people. We hand them budgeting workshops, parenting classes, financial literacy training. We make them prove they're trying. We test their worthiness. We give them temporary help with permanent strings attached. And then we wonder why nothing changes. The truth is, these programs are built on a flawed assumption that poverty is a symptom of bad decision-making, not a response to a system that traps people in survival mode. It's like throwing someone in the deep end, then offering a life jacket only if they pass a swim test. We've built policies on the idea that poor people need to be fixed, that they're broken, that they lack knowledge, ambition, or discipline. But what if the problem isn't the people? It's the pressure they're under. This is where universal basic income comes in, unconditional cash, given monthly without restrictions or moral tests. Not as a reward, not as a punishment, just a baseline for dignity. It's already been tried. In the 1970s, a Canadian town called Dauphin ran one of the most ambitious UBI experiments in history. The results were clear. Hospital visits dropped, mental health improved, domestic violence declined, graduation rates rose. People didn't stop working, they stopped panicking. They didn't become lazy, they became stable. And stability is the foundation of smart decision-making. The money wasn't wasted, it was invested. Back into the local economy, back into families, back into people who could finally breathe. And here's the kicker. It's cheaper to give people money than it is to keep them poor. We already pay for poverty through emergency room visits, policing, welfare bureaucracy, and lost productivity. We just don't call it poverty spending. We call it the cost of doing business. But when you suggest giving people cash directly, no conditions, no micromanagement, the pushback is immediate, because UBI doesn't just move money, it moves power. And in a system built to protect those at the top, moving power is the real threat. We're told that struggle builds character, but does it? Or does it just build trauma? Maybe what people need isn't more motivation. Maybe what they need is a chance. Today, social media is more than entertainment. It's infrastructure. It's where we learn, where we judge, then where we decide who deserves sympathy and who deserves shame. On TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, success is content. And nothing sells better than the self-made story. We glorify the grind, the kid who rose from food stamps to Ferraris, the entrepreneur who refused to quit, the influencer who escaped the matrix by waking up at 4 a.m. They're emotional, they're compelling, they go viral. But most of them are curated, some are exaggerated, and many conveniently skip over the parts that matter most, like family wealth, generational safety nets, elite education, or early financial help. They promote a fantasy that success is purely effort, that poverty is purely attitude. Meanwhile, real poverty is filtered out of the frame, or worse, turned into content. People film the homeless without consent. Mothers on food assistance are mocked in comment sections. Crowdfunding for surgeries is now a normalised feature of American life. This isn't just cruel, it's corrosive, because platforms reward clean narratives. So what happens when we only ever see wealth, but never see the structure that creates it? We lose context. And when we lose context, we lose compassion. That's how inequality becomes invisible. Not because it disappeared, but because the algorithm decided it didn't perform well. And in a world where everything is content, performance becomes reality. But here's the truth. Poverty is predictable. It follows race, geography, education, and policy. It is not random, it is designed. And it is sustained by narratives that blame individuals instead of interrogating systems. When we scroll past suffering, we don't just ignore it, we normalise it. And the people who benefit most from that normalisation, they're rarely the ones being filmed. So what if we flipped the feed? What if social media didn't just reflect inequality, but revealed it? What if we created content that exposed the systems, elevated the silenced, and challenged the myths? Because poverty doesn't come from laziness, stupidity, or lack of discipline. It comes from a lack of cash, and the sooner we say that out loud, the closer we get to building a world that values people over performance.